Hello, everyone. NG here. I am just wanted to speak a little bit today on Space Marine 2. I've been playing it a lot lately. If you notice my lack of uploads on Darktide, that's why. I'll be back to making Darktide stuff probably when the new crafting update comes out. I've got some ideas for builds that I really want to try out that I just don't really feel like investing the currency in. With it so close at hand, we've only got, 2 weeks? So that is still exciting to me. I'm not giving up on the game entirely. But I did want to kind of like talk about where this game is, Space Marine 2, compared to Darktide. And, I know a lot of people in my audience are Darktide mains, maybe, and might be interested in playing this game. Maybe you don't have it yet. So I got some gameplay footage in the background. I'm playing the Bulwark class. The Bulwark is really awesome. He has this ability. He can put down his standard and get all of his health back, which is nuts. I think that is completely broken, but that's a topic for another time. Let's first talk about the game as a game, just from like the technical standpoints. The one problem I have with this game is that the loading screens are pretty long. I noticed a lot of times that like console players, you can have crossplay, and console players will take kind of an exceedingly long time to get into a game with you because I think their loading times are even worse. Uh, but I mean, that's really not that bad, and I'm certain that there's things they could do to optimize that further to get those loading times down. It's just something that really kind of has irked me. And the game also has a little bit of a tendency to crash during some of those loading screens. And so a lot of times because they're so long, it'll crash mid-load and you won't notice. It'll just freeze. And so I've wasted like 5 minutes, sitting there and then be like, oh shit, like I need to control alt delete. Fortunately, I haven't had any crashes that have affected my progress, like lost me a game or anything like that. I don't think there's any ability to leave a game and reconnect like there is in Darktide, because I have left a game mid-game, had to go, thought I had to go, and then was able to come back 2 minutes later, and there was no option for rejoining that. So maybe if you had friends in the group, you could join, but that doesn't seem to be the case, just casually. Anyway, more technical stuff. This game runs phenomenally. As you can see here, it is a smooth 60 or 90 or whatever you set it to. I mean, granted, I have a 3070, but at the same time, I have a 3070 and I drop down to like 45 frames playing Darktide pretty constantly. In certain areas with certain like special effects and things on the screen. Yeah, it's just not it's not very optimized. This game seems to be very well optimized, and I'm certain it'll only get better as time goes on. So that is really nice. It's just out of the box. It worked, and I was like, all right, this rocks. So yeah, that's really good. More just general game stuff. They have talked already about adding content. And their timetable is super, super like, I don't want to say optimistic because I do fully believe that like studios should be capable of this if they can make a game like this. It's just really aggressive. Like they know that the content that is here, people are gonna gobble it up, and then they're gonna be hungry for more in a very short amount of time. So they've already got a roadmap that says this is the first month of release, and then they're calling it season 2 will start in October, which makes me think that they're going to do a season every month or something like that. And that will include a new enemy, a new co-op PvE map like what we're currently playing, and it'll include a harder difficulty, because they understand something I've been saying for a long time, which is that players will very quickly grow accustomed to your hardest difficulty. Like the players that really want to play this, it's going to be a much bigger problem for this game, because I'm pretty certain that this game is going to have a larger player base than Darktide by a factor of like 5 or 10, and there's going to be a good size chunk of those people who are really good at the game and are going to want something to push themselves. And that's what this game is really about, is like being attacked by these overwhelming swarms, just like Darktide, right? It's important to have challenging enemies. So they're going to be adding enemies, adding modifiers, increasing difficulty, that sort of stuff. So I think that's really, really good. And it's, I'm optimistic about it, I'll say, because I totally think it's doable. But, it does make me kind of angry when I like look at that compared to Darktide, and like the only new enemy we've ever gotten was the gas bomber, and that was like a year and a half after release, and it's been probably close to a year since that. And there's just so much potential in the 40k universe, and that's something that, like, if you check the comments on my videos or any videos about 40k stuff, this game included, Darktide included, there's so many comments like, I wish they would add this, because the thing about having a 40k license, or a Warhammer license, is you are basically buying yourself a library of like all these ideas that have been developed over decades. There's so much wealth of ideas there for weapons, for enemies, for player classes and stuff like that. They just, that shark just hasn't been taking advantage of it, I don't think. And yeah, so I do fully believe that these guys are going to be adding in a lot of new material, and so I like that, because right now there's only like 2 or 3 weapons, like for ranged and melee per class, but there's 6 classes. The classes aren't quite as customizable as Darktide is with their current talent tree, but I do definitely believe there could be more variations on that in the future. Like, it seems like it could be a very easy thing to do, is add some more weapons. Anyway, going on to just actual gameplay stuff. I have been really satisfied with this game. I will say, if you're coming from Darktide, it is not the same game, like, at all. It is more of a spectacle fighter. You need to, you have a third person camera, obviously. You need to be like dodge rolling and all that stuff, engaging in the like the takedown kills to get your armor, things like that back. Pretty much the only thing that sets this game apart from like DMC5 is like a combo counter or something like that. But other than that, like, you could look at this game and think that it is some sort of like action fighting game. So I was going in expecting a more Left 4 Dead 2, like Darktide like experience, but once I've really kind of gotten the flow for combat, it is so much more about like understanding the enemies, like even especially larger enemies. When you are attacking them, the little enemies do not kung fu fight and like dance around and not do anything. They are just annoying the shit out of you. They're going to attack you. So it's all about like creating these openings to get the attack the larger enemies. And I'm just getting pissed off because I'm watching this this footage. I was dealing with this guy who was not very good. But yeah, we just give up under this boss. But just like, it is very satisfying in a different way than Darktide, because like you get these fancy executions. It feels really good to get like a good dodge on an enemy's like attack, and the game does like a little bit of a slow motion for you while you can get a shot off on them. And I think it's really cool, as opposed to Darktide's like fully real time how the action is in Darktide. Like, you have to be playing everything at 100% speed. There is no slowdown. The combat is very fast paced. I will say that in this game, the combat, it has like a little bit of a slower pace, I would say. I mean, it's meatier, it's chunkier, but that's really not that bad. I mean, you're playing as a Space Marine. Comparing like what do I want to say? Comparing the violence of the two, I'd say they're in the same category. Like, Darktide, you can really like murder a lot of horde. Same thing here. just you're dealing with a different class of enemy as the Space Marine. Obviously, you're a huge armored thing. Um, the weapons that you're using are of a larger caliber. There's some familiar things like the not las gun, the plasma cannon or the plasma gun, and some of the crack grenades, stuff like that. They make appearances because those are classic like Warhammer mainstays. So some of the things will be familiar, but not all. Oh, we got the chain swords. Obviously, can't not have the chain swords in 40k. So I really think that like if you are a 40k interested or you just really like the visceral combat of Darktide, this game could be appealing. But just judge for yourself based on the gameplay you're saying here. If it's your style of game, because you might be looking for more of like a Left 4 Dead 2 sort of thing, which is I understand why a lot of people play Darktide is because it's a melee focused Left 4 Dead. Same with Vermintide. But this game isn't quite that, but I think it's really, really good in its own right. So I'll vouch for it there. Going on to some stuff about the game itself. Uh, this game has 6 classes on release. You can currently see on the screen I'm playing Bulwark. That's the Shield Tanky Boy class. The bot is playing Assault. That's like the Thunderhammer. He has a jetpack. He can burst up in the air or side to side and then bring that hammer crashing down. Pretty good. And then the other player is playing Tactical, which is like a kind of a support one size fits all class. You have a lot of different weapons you can choose from. So you kind of are like you highlight enemies with your auspex and make them open for your allies to kill them. So that's the 3 classes that are here. And the ones we're missing are what? We've got the Sniper, which guess what that does? He has a cloaking field and he's got a sniper rifle. And then we've got the Heavy, which is like, a big machine gun. Really, really good. I think the Heavy might be one of the best classes. And which one am I missing? Oh, the Vanguard. The Vanguard has a grapple hook, and he uses it to like hook onto enemies or terrain and pull himself into combat, and has kind of a short cooldown. And then once he's in that melee combat, he he gets on them with like blades and shotguns and stuff like that. So that's the 6 classes. I think they have a really good sense of like progression and power. The leveling is a lot slower than it is in Darktide. I think that's just because like maybe it isn't. I don't know. I don't remember. It's been a while since I've leveled a class in Darktide. But it's about like a level per game, and there's 30 levels. A game takes roughly 20 to probably closer to 30 minutes generally. And the progression is satisfying. Like the powers you get definitely make you more powerful. There is also a gear progression system, but it's pretty much like it. You do get like choose like perks for your weapons and like the modifiers for weapons. Like, do I want it to be better at parrying, or do I want it to be do more damage or be faster? So there's different marks for each weapon. So that's really nice. There's an extra level of customization. And then talking lastly about game balance. Like, how do I think the game is doing right now? I think the game is for like casual players and stuff like that is going to be really, really good. I think it's at a good spot. It's sufficiently challenging. It is not like, I'm gonna watch this melt a bomb. Here we go. Oh, that's satisfying. It's not like going to be a cakewalk for normal players. It's certainly not a cakewalk for me. As you can see, I'm getting my ass beat currently. Um, it's a different game than Darktide, so I wasn't able to carry my skills over. But as far as like balance between the classes, I would say there definitely are some standouts for stronger classes. Heavy and Bulwark among them are very strong. Then I would say probably Sniper and Tactical offer the most of their team after that. And then they're not like unpowerful, but I was playing Assault to start with, the hammer that the bot is playing, and they don't offer anything to their team. There's no like benefit to bringing an Assault. They don't do tremendously more damage than any other class, even though they are solely damage focused, and they lack a strong range weapon. Like they have pistols when most every other classes have like rifles. as their secondaries. And I think they can really hurt them because there are some situations where you definitely need a good ranged gun. You cannot just like melee your way through everything unless you have allies that are going to be willing to do that for you. So I think the classes do need a little bit of a tweak because I'm seeing that now that I'm playing Bulwark, it's so much easier than Assault. And that cannot just be down to my playstyle. The one last thing I want to touch on before I go is I do have a bit of a problem with, oh, check this out, by the way. You can change your loadout at like certain checkpoints in the mission. So like if you have a weapon that's better for boss battles or better for horde clear or whatever, you can swap between them. So that is really cool, actually. What a great idea. But, you know, that's something the game has to be built around. But my big problem with the way the game is designed currently is what you just saw there. After we beat those enemies, we got into that elevator and we went up through a checkpoint. The problem with that is if you beat the enemies to the checkpoint, they just kind of fuck off. And a lot of times they'll cease to aggro on you. If they're not like immediately behind you, they'll just leave you alone. And you can just get in the elevator and go on the level. And that just gets rid of all the enemies that are past a certain point. There's no way like Darktide where in Darktide, you know, if you have a big ass horde behind you and we're like, come on guys, let's go. And we get over a drop down and go into a new area through like a locked door. Those enemies go in through their own doors and they come out into the new area. So by putting off killing enemies, you are not saving yourself time. You're making that enemy horde in the next area even bigger. So unless you have a way you can absolutely outpace them, like running with zealot, all zealots, all knives, they're going to catch up to you. In this game, the enemies are only just barely faster than you, but you can get ahead of them by like rolling and pathing correctly. And then you can beat them to those checkpoints. And I've seen, and I'm certain it'll grow even more as more people start playing after the full release of this game, which is that people are like trying to speedrun this game by just running into the checkpoints and like ignoring all the enemies. And that is, I mean, I'm all for like using whatever is powerful to get ahead, but that is decidedly like unfun. And you can do it on the highest difficulties too. You can just like run past the enemies and they don't even really get a chance to attack. And then you just have to do the objectives. And there's a lot of objectives in this game. Like there's one level in particular I'm thinking about that I've seen people speedrunning a lot that has almost no combat related objectives. You don't have to like kill enemies to get past them. You just have to like stand in certain zones and block and wait and dodge. And I just don't think that's really fitting with like the thematics of the game. You know, you're a space marine. You should be killing everything. You should be purging the Xenos, not like avoiding the Xenos. So it is a little bit kind of cringe that has been allowed to go on. But I think there's some really simple changes that could be made to fix that situation and make it so that it is punishing if you leave enemies alive. Like, you know, leaving 10 enemies that saw you in a zone, they'll come back to bite you. Or one thing that I think they could do with that is there are enemies that like these larger enemies, these Majoris level threat enemies. You see the one that's highlighted in red right now for the execution. If they're left sort of unmessed with for a while and they get too far away, they'll go and call in reinforcements and they'll put a call over their head and they'll call in reinforcements. Sometimes they'll do it in the middle of combat and you got to shock them out of it. But I think that would be really cool if like leaving enemies alive encourage them to call reinforcements and the game really punished you for that. But that's my only real downside to how the game is currently played. That is totally negated by just play the game how it's probably supposed to be played, which is just kill everything in sight, right? Like this area right here has it built in. You cannot escape this area. You have to kill all these enemies before the next part begins. I think more levels should have stuff like this that definitely encourage you to need to bring classes that can do adequate killing. Anyway, that is all I have to say, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you like Darktide content and you like Space Marine 2 content, I'll definitely be doing more of both of these in the future. And thanks so much, guys. Subscribe to me. I love you. I'll see you next time. Bye.